speaking of, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, looking quite dashing today, man. Looking quite fashionable. What
Thank you.
what have you been cooking up, bro?
What have I been cooking up? Man, I've actually been thinking about fashion a lot recently. But not in like the, these colors are gonna go together way, but more in like, what does it mean? What does style mean? And the more I think about it, the more I come to this realization that looking good and looking stylish are two separate things.
Absolutely.
Like, influencers look good, they put together pieces in a harmonious way. A lot of like all the advertising we are exposed to on a daily basis, they all look good. Looking good is not difficult, but having a uniqueness, having style is a totally different thing. And I think it is a deeply personal process. And how I think of it is like, when fashion ends is where actual style begins.
And would you say that most of the time when we look at someone and say, oh, you're looking good,
Yeah.
right? I mean, one, that'll be some combination of timeless factors of form and color, which objectively make someone look good. And also fashion, where they're in touch with what's popular at the time, which is not necessarily the same as style.
No, it's not the same as style. But even when you say that, like, there's like classical ideas of what looks good, right? And maybe, yes, some things are safer than others in terms of how they can look good, but I still don't even count that as style. I'm a bit of a postmodernist, like a deconstructivist when it comes to this type of stuff, where I don't think that objectively some things can look good. It really, really depends. It's very, very person specific. For me, when I think about, man, that's an iconic style, that's an iconic look, there's like this beautiful equilibrium that's happening between what the person is like and how it's reflecting in what they're dressing.
So
what I mean,
the objectivity.
It's like, let's think of it like this. Like, suppose you're a nerd, you're a dork. You know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with being a nerd. I'm a nerd. You're also a nerd. But if it's like this really, really computer nerdy type guy, and he decides that, what, from now on I'm going to wear streetwear and I'm going to wear
that is the worst combination.
It just doesn't work. You know what I mean? We see this all the time. A lot of these tech bros, right? They went from like this nerdy look to this like, cool boy leather jacket type look. And it's not that those pieces are bad. They're probably great pieces. It's not that the look is objectively bad. These guys have access to the best stylists, best things in the world. The fits are objectively decent, but they just don't make sense.
Yeah,
because they're not in congruence with the wearer's personality.
Like Zuckerberg's t-shirts are, I think, custom Brunello or something.
Yeah.
And you look at them and you look at that shirt and you're like, yeah, it's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
Does it fit what Mark Zuckerberg is all about? Not to me, not really. And yeah, he's come some of the way in terms of looking cool because of the martial arts thing and whatnot, but it still doesn't quite sit right with me.
It's important you bring up the Zuckerberg thing because, like, for the longest time, the gray t-shirts that he was wearing, the one you're referring to, the Brunello ones, those I felt suit him. You know what I mean?
No, I'm talking about the font, the Gothic font and stuff. Have you seen those?
Those are Amiri.
Those are Amiri?
Yeah.
Okay.
He swapped the wardrobe from like this totally Brunello.
The plain Brunello looked decent, bro. The font didn't look nice. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this new Amiri wardrobe he has, I don't think it works for him. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And it's not that people's personalities can't change and stuff, but sometimes you can tell when, man, this just isn't like, it doesn't work. But on the other hand, I would never say this about Steve Jobs. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at Steve Jobs' classical Issey Miyake turtleneck with the New Balance sneakers, it just feels at peace with what he is about. You know what I mean? And it's tough to put into words. It's tough to rationalize it. But good style when you see it because it's in total congruence with the wearer's personality.
Let me try and take out a rule of thumb. Okay, you kind of summed it up in the air. Yeah. But what I'm kind of getting is when I said earlier, there's certain timeless forms and colors would look good. And you're saying it's not necessarily just that.
Yeah.
There's a realm beyond it.
Yeah.
Where good style, those may play into certain ideas of fashion and looking good, but true style does not come from conforming to classical ideas of form or beauty necessarily. That might be a part of it.
It could be.
But ultimately, it is the consonance between what that person is, represents, whatever the thrust of his life is, and how they manage to piece that together on their own body in terms of clothes.
Absolutely.
Like, for example,
absolutely. Like what we're talking about here is like fashion without substance is just vapid, you know?
It's like a sartorial physiognomy in a way.
Yeah.
The
absolutely.
inner and the outside connect.
Yeah. Aesthetics without ethics are futile. They just don't make sense. They just look good for the sake of looking good. And they can look beautiful. It's not that I don't look at, like, you know, some of Brad Pitt's fits and I'm like, bro, these are gorgeous fits. Absolutely. I love Brad Pitt. You know what I mean? But when I think about style icons, right, I'm not necessarily thinking about the prettiest face with the prettiest clothes. I'm thinking about how does what this guy or girl are wearing reflect their inner world, reflect how they conduct themselves in life, reflect their art, reflect all of these different things.
Like you look at it and you're like, that's so Steve Jobs.
And that's when I'm like, that is real style. You know what I mean? That is unique. That you can't buy. You get what I mean?
What do you think about? I see this line thrown a lot around on social media, and I think I have some sympathy for it.
Yeah.
That if you can't dress well cheaply, you can't dress well at all. What do you think about that?
What I think about it is that if you can't dress well cheaply, I don't necessarily agree with it. It really depends upon what vibe you're going for. Like if you are someone who predominantly feels comfortable in, like, you know, wools and cashmeres and, like, you know, these type of things.
You can't get natural fibers cheaply.
Yeah, you can't get natural fibers cheap. You know what I mean? There's something that you can't cheap out on and look good. You can tell, like, it's a cheap sweater. You can tell it when something is cheap. I think this can work insofar as, like, if it's a t-shirt.
Not everyone can tell.
Huh?
Not everyone can tell.
Man, yeah, not everyone can tell.
But if you're a fashion aficionado, like you kind of.
Yeah, it's like you're starting to notice all these small things, man. So I think people who can dress well cheaply tend to be really, really, like, you know,
versatile in their style, maybe?
No, they are like conventionally attractive people, and it's tough for them to kind of look bad. But
yeah, you see that, bro. With people like there'll be people who will look better or look really great with just like a t-shirt and blue jeans.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a timeless kind of style in and of itself, but they're not doing it very intentionally. It's just a basic everyday thing for them.
It's like, bro, if, like, you know, you're well built, you're good looking, you've got all the right, like, you know, Vitruvian man characteristics about yourself. Oh, you look good in just about everything. You know what I mean? So it's not really something that people can take practical advice from. Hey, just wear a pair of nice jeans and a t-shirt and you look good. Yeah, you look good if you are good looking or are conventionally attractive, but it might not be the case for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
And so do you think that, okay, I can guide someone in terms of basic form and fashion and say that, oh, according to the latest trend where baggy jeans are quite popular, right? They will suit X person and not suit Y person. You can give this sort of generic advice. You can, according to classical ideals of beauty, maybe give someone a glow up. Like I remember, I think it was Alexander Wang or someone, they were like, or even Tom Ford was doing this, where he was basically picking up random people off the street and giving them insane makeovers, which made them.
It's Tom Ford. It's a YouTube series.
Yeah, it was making people look phenomenal. Right? And so there's that category of making someone look good, right? On the other hand, when I think of, as someone who's always been into literature and who's written poetry and prose, no single writer can come and tell me, according to my specific unique style, how to write well. They can give me general guidelines on what makes a great writer, what makes the backbone, right? And whatever the process of self-discovery or practice is to get to that level, right? But that journey is still completely my own. And I feel like for style, true style, it's something like that.
It's absolutely like that. Like there's a lot of like practical advice you can give to a person, but specific advice is very, very difficult to give because it's like, I don't know what ultimately you're going to look best in what you actually like because your body's going to feel more relaxed in it. You're going to feel more at ease in it. You know what I mean? So I can't tell you, say specifically, Momi, you should wear this. I can give you direction where it's like, hey, listen, maybe you should try to balance the fit, maybe try to create texture in your outfit. Maybe I can tell you that, you know, take inspiration from stuff you really, really like.
But that will take me more towards looking good more conventionally as opposed to developing a unique personal style.
No, what I'm saying is pretty open-ended.
Okay.
What I'm saying is open-ended, like play around with proportions to come toward what
you find your own.
Find your own thing. Okay. Yeah. So it's very, very generic, vague advice.
Fair enough.
And I think that's the best thing you can do for someone who is looking to develop their own style. You know what I mean? But if your goal is to look good or look fashionable, it's not too difficult, man. If there's nothing like bad about doing that. Like, you should look smack. You should look the best you can. If it's not that deep to you, bro, just wear whatever you think is gonna look good. You don't have to deep it that much.
Take for example, the journeys of Yves Saint Laurent or Chanel, in which they're groundbreaking, for example, for their work on silhouettes around the male and female body. Right? So there is some level of objectivity where you're saying that, oh, these are the ideal male proportions. And I'm going to use, say Chanel or other designers in that time or Dior use their unique takes on the female silhouette to drive a certain sex appeal based thrust of their fashion. So those things are corporeal factors in how fashion evolved. Right? So we're not necessarily saying that it's completely divorced from the human form and never can be. Right? But there's a lot you can do to play around with it. Like, for example, if great style can include someone who's like a jet set Italian wearing suits and stuff, and it can go all the way to Steve Jobs. Right? That means there is
a broad room to
there's a lot of subjectivity.
Even what you're talking about with maximizing the male or the female silhouette to come up with the most eye-pleasing, eye-candy type of thing. That's also a sect. But on the other hand, you have this entire sect of male or female who dress a lot more androgynous, and they also look great in what they're doing. You know what I mean? You can take pretty much any...
all the avant-garde guys, Rick Owens and all.
Rick Owens, you can take practically every 70s or 80s pop star or whatever, and it might not be your cup of tea, but they captured something in that. And there's a lot of people who like that androgynous
and
stuff.
all of the heady YSL Celine era is all pretty androgynous.
Personally, if you ask me, a brand whose aesthetic I've always loved, especially since the Hedi Slimane era, it's YSL.
Very androgynous,
man. I take away so much inspiration from YSL aesthetic are fucking cool. But
and even when you come to the male form, even when you come to the male form, for instance, the heavily padded boxiness of British tailoring, which no one will dispute the excellence of British tailoring.
Absolutely,
right?
People, British too. British tailoring too.
For me, for my body, that's also. Honestly, that's the only way I'm going, right? But
for my body, I love the aesthetic of British tailoring, but for my body, I don't love British tailoring.
You think Italian and French are more...
Not French. Italian suits my body
Fair
more.
Enough.
You know what I mean?
Enough. So, and the approaches are fundamentally different. So even there's room to be played around.
Absolutely. So if you talk about British tailoring, right? British tailoring, extremely structured, extremely strong on the shoulders.
Exactly. Shoulder padding.
Strong padding, strong chest padding. Now see, I don't want to do that because I naturally have a broader shoulder. I actually naturally have a broader chest. So it's going to make me look too imbalanced. I prefer the softer shoulders of the Italian, the softer padding of the Italian, because otherwise it's overbearing. If I wear that type of a look, it's too overbearing for me.
It'll be a bit too militaristic.
You know in Tom and Jerry when there's those gangster cats that come up
in the trench coats.
I look like that with the British tailoring, even though just the pure aesthetics of the British tailoring, I like them more than Italian. But functionally, the Italian looks much better than me because I don't want to look like that. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I don't want to look like a Tom and Jerry cat. You get what I mean?
3 cats in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Is that 3 cats in a trench coat or a buzz?
Yeah. I look like that then, man.
While we're on the subject of the silhouettes of suits, something that has absolutely, I consider mortal sin that really bothers me is these drainpipe trousers on suits. But the Andrew Tate course seller trousers. And this is a sin I'm guilty of as well in my late teens. And it took me a while to understand that, this is not what tailoring should be like. And dude, for me, I don't think I'm the biggest purist either. Right? And I'm not too militant about, your style should be this way or that way. But man, I just really do not like that.
See, I don't like it for myself now because ever since I started working on it, I've put on some mass and it just doesn't suit me anymore. But back when I was skinnier, I liked it. And the thing about the skinnier pant type of silhouette, right? It's a aesthetic that's popularized by YSL. So if you happen to be 6'2" and you weigh 130 pounds, it might still look really, really good on you. You know what I mean? So even as much as I don't like to see a drainpipe trouser, in certain settings, it can look great. With a certain body type, it can look
quite hard to pull off in the sense that, bro,
because
most
more people aren't 6'2" and 135.
And for Pakistanis, the average Pakistani build of a young person should not be aspiring to wear like Hedi Slimane type trousers. Like that's just not good.
It probably won't work.
It won't, man.
If it does, all power.
I could never pull that off. I have like tree trunk thighs, bro. I could never pull that off.
Yeah,
and everyone was wearing skinny jeans. Yeah. Everyone was wearing skinny jeans for a few years. And like, dude, I honestly think that there is a space for them in fashion.
Yeah.
But you have to have the body type, man. Otherwise, it just does not look good. You can't be like, all the like.
Objectively, you're right,
bro. The Andrew Tate type people, the course seller, Bitcoin type people that I'm talking to you about, who are wearing skinny trousers that end here.
Yeah.
Okay, like, and they're showing 3 inches of ankle.
Yeah.
Right. You know, my deconstructivism around fashion kind of ends there. I'm like, that is a point you're reaching where it just does not look flattering at all.
Might not look flattering on them, but it's not. I still don't think it's a problem with the pieces. It's really a problem with it. Just doesn't make sense.
It's not for you.
It's just not for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
That's kind of where I like. Once again, I'm
fair enough.
I have a very, very fluid take on this stuff. But coming back to like, the idea of your style should reflect your internal. It's like there's some people who I look at and I'm like, man, these guys are just doing it so fucking well. It just makes so much sense that they dress like this given who they are. You know what I mean? And like if I think of like my 5 fashion like style like icons, like people who I think just mastered style, I would put like Kurt Cobain, I would put Ayub Khan, I would put the Emir of Qatar, I would put Gianni Agnelli, and I would put Michel Foucault. It's like these 5 characters, I've thought long
quite a list.
Yeah, I've thought long and hard about it. And these are 5 people whose personal styles are just like perfect given what they represented and given the work that they did.
So you've got Ayub Khan.
Yeah.
Okay. President and military dictator for 10 years.
Yeah.
You got Michel Foucault. Okay. Progenitor of like postmodernism in the mainstream.
Yeah.
You got Gianni Agnelli, style icon, jet set Italian guy.
Man in the world in the 70s, whatever.
You've got Kurt Cobain, absolute rock star, and you can see the Hedi Slimane DNA fascination in there, kind of too, a little bit,
to some degree, yeah.
And who's your 5th?
The Emir of Qatar,
bro.
The Emir of Qatar,
the greatest,
the shrewdest political operator in the world today,
bro.
Bar none.
He has 2 claims to fame: being the shrewdest political operator in the world,
and the best dressed political operator in the world.
The best fall of any trousers I've ever seen in my entire life, period, bro.
The guy is
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So it's like the Emir of Qatar, right? I mean, the Emir of Qatar, in my opinion, is the shrewdest political operator in the world. The way Qatar punches above its weight on an international scale today, it bar no
every regional negotiation is happening in your drawing room.
And Qatar's foreign policy, which he is like ultimately the head of, he's the head of state, right? There's always a flamboyance to the way Qatar operates. It's like, we're going to buy Paris Saint-Germain. We're going to buy Harrods. We're going to buy all the property in the most expensive districts of London, There's a flamboyance.
And we're going to host the World Cup and not shy away from having dominant displays of Islamic civilization everywhere and assert ourselves.
Yeah. So I think Qatar is cool. And I think the Emir of Qatar is really, really cool. And here's the thing, when you look at his dressing, right? What he wears is just perfect for who he is and how he's built. Like, he is almost exclusively wearing like Tom Ford suits.
He's very tall, huh?
He's very tall and he's very, very slim. Like, the ideal way to dress is like, you're tall and slim, pretty much everything is going to look good on you. But this guy is a guy who can like probably get every tailor in the world to collaborate to make him like a custom thing. But he pretty much predominantly wearing Tom Ford suits. You can tell by like the sweeping curved lapel and the shoulder padding and like the longer jacket length. But it works so perfectly with him because if you ask me, like, the Tom Ford suit is like the ultimate reinterpretation of the 80s power suit with a little bit more restraint to it, where it's like these very, very minute details will catch your eye and will make you think that that's a beautiful suit, like I said, the broad shoulders, the sweeping curved lapels, the longer jacket length.
Is he wearing broader ties and stuff, or?
I think his tie stuff is pretty normal, but the way he's accessorizing it is always a little bit like colorful. Like, you know, there's a lot of pictures of him rocking like a gray charcoal suit with a lilac shirt with a deep purple tie. You know what I mean?
Phenomenal.
Against like the sober aggression of a Tom Ford suit. It's just so quintessentially him, you know, because that's also how his foreign policy kind of operates, you know?
Yeah.
Extremely regal, extremely like restrained, intelligent, intentional, but with a dash of flamboyant that you can sense, but you can't really comprehend. You know what I mean? And like I said, this is a guy who can dress any way in the world he wants. He could get Huntsman and Anderson Shepherd, two of the best tailors in the world, to Qatar to work on him, his custom suiting. But he chooses Tom Ford aesthetic. You know, and like if I have
with
like
a touch of his own originality.
Yeah, but there's a touch of his own originality, the way he's flamboying it up and stuff like that, you know? So
flamboying it up. Let's
so
go.
For me, the Emir of Qatar, like his dressing is perfect. It's very, very simple, but it's perfect for who he is and how he's operating politically. You get what I mean?
What would your guess be? How much of how he dresses is a stylist who's read him perfectly and been like, you should dress like this?
Yeah.
Because obviously, head of state, there will be some level of that.
Yeah.
And how much of it do you think is just him projecting what he likes?
I think that is a big part of him projecting what he likes. Because like I said, this guy can do anything in the world. Even if he has the stylist be like, okay, we'll throw you into a Brioni suit today or a Xenia suit today. Or hey, listen, let's fly over the best tailors in the world to do this for you. But he's pretty much exclusively wearing Tom Ford. That has to, on some level,
would be what he likes.
Input of his there. He's like, no, I like this. This works for me. You know?
I agree.
Otherwise, there's no reason why he wouldn't mix
experimenting
and
a little bit.
Everything in the world. But he knows what he likes and it works for him. You know what I mean? Impeccably dressed guy. Impeccably dressed guy.
He just might be number 2 to the second statesman we're going to talk about. Which is a tall order, but he just might be.
If you ask me, Ayub Khan is the most stylish man in Pakistani history.
Yeah.
Bar none. Now, Ayub Khan basically looks and moved and dressed like Otto von Bismarck and Vito Corleone, like merged into one character. You know what I mean? There's a military
statesman plus Don.
Statesman plus Don, yes. It's supremely powerful, supremely like confident in the way he moved around. Like the pictures of him sitting in the White House, like, you know, playfully slapping Lyndon Baines Johnson. And Lyndon Johnson is like well known to be the most intimidating US president ever. There's pictures of him like barbecuing with him, joking around with him.
He's towering over all these guys, over Kennedy, over the Indians he's meeting. He's like, everyone's like looking at him.
Yeah. Ayub Khan is a Don looking guy. And the beauty of how he's dressing is like, you know, he's a loud dresser. Almost
everything double-breasted, very, very powerful.
Double-breasted, big sweeping lapels, you know what I mean? Heavy tweed coats.
And very aggressive lapels, like they're very pointy.
Like peak lapel, And then he tops it all up with that Karakul cap, which is like a symbol of like, you know, Jinnah, of Pakistani power. There's like this one picture of him sitting with the Shah of Iran. I think it looked like they were at a party or something. And the Shah of Iran is like totally like looks maxing. He's got these cool glasses on. And Ayub Khan is just sitting there with that cap.
Just mogging him.
Just mogging. You know what I mean? Ayub Khan dressing is like fucking fantastic. And once again, like it makes so much sense given the type of guy he is. He's like a dominating, powerful guy, and he dressed like that. You know what I mean? It was hyper aggressive.
And you know, you see his journey to the top.
Yeah.
And this is not advocacy for him gaining power. This is not a place at all.
This is just how perfectly congruent his style and his persona are. It's a commentary on that.
Because the way this guy wrests power and then holds himself in power for 10 years, comes up with all these 5-year plans, and you know, he's a very well-respected figure, even internationally in his own time, right? Even now, a lot of the people who are very critical of that entire strain of politics have a bit of they've got a bit of a soft spot for Ayub Khan, saying that, oh, Pakistan was doing well at that time. And again, this is not me saying that he was or he wasn't.
Yeah.
But this entire like will to power type thing he had going on, he's a very impressive character inside and out.
Yeah,
whatever you want to say about his administration, the guy kept hold of a young country, mogged, went around the world representing us for 10 years.
Pakistan as a country enjoyed its high status internationally when we had a guy like him representing us. You know what I mean? The power to go into the White House and, joke around with JFK and Lyndon Johnson like that. That's
and nowadays people will always be critical, even given the current political climate, and they're all like, oh, you're looking for a handsome PM, it doesn't matter, this, that. No, of course we want a statesman, right? We're not saying that. But our point here is just this. That statesmanship, that power that he was able to project through his style, but that was also really quintessentially him, is exactly the kind of stylistic congruence we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Suits.
It reflected something inside him. He wasn't just a hollow shell that looked good and looked imposing and that towered over people.
Yeah.
There was a part of his personality that his dressing captured.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this one picture of him with Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was a impeccably dressed guy in his own right.
Yeah.
And you just can't help but feel like, man, Ayub Khan is more. The guy was so well dressed, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you really want to leave it at it, it's like, whenever Pakistan gets its own political messiah, savior, whatever, right? I just hope that he's as well dressed and mogs as much as Ayub Khan does, man.
Absolutely, yeah. That's all I ask for, man. I don't care about policy. I don't care about just look good, bro. Represent us well internationally. That's what I care about.
And even the very bold fusion of the cap, the caracal, and the suits. I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's something Jinnah used to do.
Yeah.
Right? So that DNA, of course, if you're soon after the passing away of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, if you're assuming the mantle of leading this young, promising country, you're hyper aware of your style DNA. You know exactly what you're doing when you wear the same cap that he did, and you wear the same kind of incredibly tailored suits that he did. So I would actually say that Ayub Khan's style DNA, whether he liked it or not, will inevitably be found in Muhammad Ali Jinnah.
Yeah.
Because that guy was a style icon in his own right, bro. He was a king when it came to that.
Yeah, of course. All these guys were.
Yeah.
The coolest people in the world, coolest guys.
In fact, what I loved about Jinnah, what I loved about Muhammad Ali Jinnah is that, dude, he does not have the towering stature physically that Ayub Khan does. Right? But his presence in a room is unmatchable. Thank God, we didn't turn into a monarchy after. Jinnah would have been the king, bro. This guy is just
he looked regal, man.
And that's the thing, he has this, again, and this is actually a great contrast, that we're talking about, there's an objective, form-based, height-based appeal to how Ayub Khan's brought his style into his own. Right? With Jinnah, he doesn't have those classical attributes the same way. Right? He's skinny, so he can pull off a lot of the tailoring really well. Right? But his calm, unbelievably self-assured self, sporting that kind of attire in the face of all these lords and dukes and just, that's their civilization style. And Jinnah sits across from them and he owns it in a way that they could never hope to in a million years. Right? So, yes, in the post-partition scenario, Ayub Khan absolutely mogs, but Jinnah started it all. In my,
I'm not taking it.
He's the absolute,
they're all incredible people. No,
I'm not comparing. I'm just that's the DNA kind of.
Absolutely. There's definitely some nods of affinity towards the Karakul cap being one of them. But okay, so Ayub Khan and the Emir of Qatar are they're tall, slim, broad, they've got it all going on for themselves to look good. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that you have to have those things to dress like a G. Now.
Oh, and so before you move on, I need to say this as well. To give him his due, Nehru.
Yeah,
right?
Nehru.
The Nehru jacket is iconic around the world. And props to him for it. And as someone, I'm from an immigrant community in Pakistan, right? So we wear our kurta pajama, right? So there is that consonance with Central Indian style or whatever, where then out of that tradition also comes the
Nehru jacket.
the Nehru jacket.
Oh, the Nehru jacket is low key the best.
The Bangala.
It's the best looking jacket in the fucking game. And why I know this for sure is because if you look at the top men's brand in the world right now, be it Loro Piana, be it Xenia, be it Brioni, be it Brunello Cucinelli, they all in their current collection
are trying to do some version of the Bangala.
Iteration of the Nehru jacket. You know, so this thing that maybe we take for granted, bro, the world's top textile and apparel companies in the world are making some interpretation of this. It's like, you know, wear your Nehru jacket, wear your Prince jacket shamelessly, bro. That thing is gorgeous. The proportions of it are just perfect. Like, honestly, if I had like a naked eye with any preconceived notions, I might just like the look of a Nehru jacket more than a regular suit jacket.
Bro, I like it more. I think
it just looks better.
Very recently, like my best friend got married a few months ago, bro. He wore Prince coat one of his events, bro. I was like, dude, this is the future. This is absolutely the future. And you know, it actually set me down this path of looking at, like, we all know India's got great design. And for women's fashion, Pakistan also has, like, really punches above its weight. We have some incredible designers.
Absolutely incredible stuff.
And I'm not very familiar with the men's game in a deep way, but from what I looked at, dude, India's doing some incredible things. Right? We're playing catch up there. We're absolutely playing catch up. But overall, bro, South Asian style, South Asian men's fashion, I look at it and bro, just go back to the Mughals. I want us to start dressing like that again.
Bro, there's no surprise that the British looked at India and they're like, bro, this is the richest part of the world with the best, like, cotton was the main thing they were after, you know what I mean? They have the best cotton in the world. They have, like, you know, the best, like, some of these linens and stuff, these type of things in the world. It's no surprise that they said that, bro, we need to get our hands into this. You know what I mean? And all these things that we take for granted, our sartorial legacy is genuinely, it can hang with the best of them. Like, one of my friends recently wore, like, you know, the waistcoat, the Pakistani waistcoat style. He wore it with a pant and a shirt. And I had never seen that in my life. And all I was thinking in that moment is that, bro, that is a fucking great combination. It looked amazing. And we never even try doing this stuff. We don't even think about it. It's not even intuitively. We don't even think about, hey, let me match a waistcoat with a pant and a shirt.
Dude.
And it looked great. It looked fabulous.
I recently was getting a bunch of suits made for work and whatnot, because, like, we wear, like, formal every day. And then, dude, that sent me down the rabbit hole. And I was looking at, like, all these kurta pajama and shalwar kameez that all designers are making. Dude, some of them were incredible. And they were a little risky. Like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily wear something with a lot of embroidery on it. Oh, and honestly, if I'm being honest, it's just because it's not that commonly worn by men here. I would like to wear it. And it's not some new innovation that's blurring the line between male and female. No, this is literally the legacy of men in the subcontinent. This is the legacy of Mughal sartorial culture in the subcontinent.
Exactly. Fruity and proud, baby.
Yeah, bro.
Not these stiff upper lip British
straight
people,
up.
you know.
And we don't have
always had flair. Like, embrace that flair.
Dude, give me a bit of, like, give me a red embroidered kurta, bro. If it's a bit common, I'll start wearing it. You know, maybe I'm not bold enough to be the first, bro. But I'll be the second, I'll be the third.
Absolutely.
You know?
But yeah, man. Looking good doesn't have to be about a specific body type or a specific, like, you know, regal, formal aesthetic. There's some people who, you know, lack all of those things and, like, they dress fucking phenomenally. Like, Kurt Cobain is another example. Have you listened to any Nirvana?
Barely. Just, like, chilling my friends and stuff.
Bro, Nirvana are one of the most influential bands of all time. And the thing about Nirvana's music, right? It was so counterintuitive to what people would think that would sound good. You know, it's chaotic, mistuned guitars, you know, weird, stripped down, minimal on, like, not so great recording. It's not even mastered, like, necessarily excellently, but it just sounded perfect. It was raw, it was organic, it was chaotic, but it was harmonious, you know? And if you look at, like, Kurt Cobain's dressing, Kurt Cobain is why people wear light wash denims. They like the aesthetic of dirty sneakers. Why people like flannels. Like I'm wearing a fucking flannel right now. At some level, I'm giving it, and light wash denim. I'm probably giving a nod of approval to Kurt Cobain in some ways. You know what I mean? So Kurt Cobain is really the guy who made this entire grunge aesthetic. You know what I mean? And Kurt Cobain is the definition of why I don't think you need to match colors. I don't think you need to match formality of pieces either. I think he's the master of texture. You know, the way he would play around with textures in his fits. You know, the fuzzy cardigans with the beat up denim.
Oh, that looks awesome.
You know, with the vintage t-shirts and the dirty sneakers. It's not that these pieces were fabulous. It's not that, you know, they made sense together. The colors never made sense together half the time. You know, he'd be wearing a pink sweater with a yellow t-shirt underneath. It's like intuitively, it won't look good. But it just looked perfect because he was a master of texture. And when you look at his music, it's the same thing. Where it's like texture. It's a master of different counterintuitive textures coming together to make something really, really harmonious. It's like aggressively authentic. You know what I mean? And in terms of like casual style, I don't think there has been anyone who's been as influential to casual style the way Kurt Cobain has. Like in a lot of ways. I mean, even like look at all the people wearing, never heard a Nirvana song in their life, but wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. That's a nod of approval to the power of a guy like Kurt Cobain, you know? And the most beautiful thing about all of it with him, it was effortless with him. You know, that's just how he was. You know? He's a style icon, not because he really thought it through, maybe like, you know, the past example who really thought it through. He just was. You know what I mean? Like, Kurt Cobain has great fucking style, man.
He's is this something that's often talked about regarding him?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's well regarded to be as one of the leading style icons.
And I feel like that's maybe the best part about the effortlessness of it, because it's like, this guy was not... He wasn't a designer. He wasn't an influencer. He wasn't trying to trigger a fashion revolution, yet his DNA lives on in what is one of the most influential strands of style in the past few decades.
Streetwear, flannel, light wash denim, that's all him. And not just that, there's something even more to it than that, which is the fact that like, even vintage and stuff, vintage clothing, thrifting and stuff, I would say that that grunge aesthetic, which he pioneered,
very much ties into that.
Really, I mean, he was the first big guy who was doing
like having torn or frayed jeans.
He wasn't fitting it.
That becoming acceptable is closely linked to thrifted clothing becoming acceptable in some way.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
And these guys were thrifting back when it was like they were broke. You know, they had nothing else they could do. You know, when you say that, you know, you can't look good unless you can't say you dress well unless you can dress well cheap. It's like Kurt Cobain is like a testament to, if that statement is true.
Very true,
Then it's like the definition. Like everything just look old, beat up, tattered, whatever, but it just worked.
Man, you know, a bunch of random content coming off of my social media recently, I found insanely cool. Man, the East Asian fashion scene is on something.
Yeah.
Like we've always known that Japan has an insane scene going on, and you have a lot of you know, Yohji Yamamoto to the Issey Miyake. You've got a lot of crossover, right? So that we've known, right? And then you also know that South Korea has kind of a budding scene.
Yeah.
What I wasn't really familiar with was the Vietnams and the Thailands and the way they've taken the DNA. And I'm honestly not familiar with any of the designers or something. Maybe they haven't had that crossover appeal yet.
Yeah.
But it was just a bunch of like fashion creators going to these countries.
Yeah.
And even China,
right?
And going to these like thrift stores or like more avant-garde leaning stores where they're having like these little get-togethers or some fashion scene. Dude, those people, the style is unbelievable. And again, you know, this is not something I would ever see myself wearing, but can I knock the game? Never. It's so obvious that these guys have some sort of scene. Does that mean every single person in the group has the most authentic, is Kurt Cobain? No, right? But they're like, there is some subculture that they are clearly a part of, genuinely a part of, and they're kind of subscribing to that subculture's aesthetic, which I find like pretty cool. Yeah, and you know, with all the East Asian stuff, it's like the Vietnamese scene, the Indonesian scene. And it's not even underground anymore. Like, I think there was
I think the world acknowledges how good some of the stuff that's.
but there was a content creator in Bangkok.
Yeah.
And he went to this store, which it was like a 4-story store in central Bangkok.
Yeah.
With all this avant-garde fashion and whatnot. And it was
Big
full, it was booming.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I don't know if it's all Japan-centric, the seed of all of this, but it's crazy what's happening.
They have their
in
own
Asia.
thing. Like, I travel to Hong Kong a lot.
Yeah.
And I've always said this, like, some of the best clothes you can get in the world at like pretty decent prices as well. You'll find that stuff in Hong Kong.
Sam Taylor.
Huh?
Sam
Not
Taylor.
Sam Taylor. Yeah, Sam Taylor. Shout out Sam Taylor, man. Like, I haven't been to Japan, but I'm a big fan of a lot of Japanese fashion as well. Like Japanese denim is, bro, if you had to own one jean for the rest of your life, I'd say recommend, like, getting a pair of Japanese denim. Those things are bulletproof and they just look better with time. They age so beautifully. You know what I mean?
I think, it's become a thing now, like indigo denim and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big into that stuff as well.
So speaking of unconventional styles and unconventional style icons, I think your weirdest but justified pick is Michel Foucault.
Yeah. So Michel Foucault, bro, like, if you had the poster child for the rebellious intellectual, like, archetype, a picture of Michel Foucault should come up. You know what I mean? As dissident as it gets, and how he dressed was also reflective of this entire, like, his philosophy. You know what I mean? He would be wearing these like slim-fitting turtlenecks with these leather jackets. He would wear a lot of like herringbone tweed jackets with the typical French tailoring style, the cigarette shoulder and stuff. That idea of this well-dressed, like, kind of sexy professor, like that entire archetype is found in Michel Foucault. You know what I mean? And
he's a bit, but he's got that rough edgedness that is unique to him, right? That, for example, the leather jacket layered onto the typical intellectual's turtleneck is very Michel Foucault, and it reflects like this also freaky side that we know this guy had to him.
He was a freak.
He was an absolute freak.
His philosophy is also freaky for that matter.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about Deleuze and Guattari and a lot of these French postmodernists. I would say the goddaddy of all these guys is Foucault at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Dude, he stands out the most as a cultural icon for sure.
And that's in part because of how he looked, man, and how he dressed. Like, there was this thing that, like, Yves Saint Laurent and Foucault used to roam around in the same circles. And I have to imagine on some level that Yves Saint Laurent used to use, like...
There's some cross-pollination there.
Yeah, there's cross-pollination there. Foucault was like a muse of his. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that must have happened at some point. And even like this, even the details in some of the stuff he did, like, he had this long face and this round, bald head. And he would contrast it with these extremely square
glasses
that they just look perfect.
But he had a very
harmony and stuff.
Menacing, powerful aura.
Yeah.
And again, it was a very Foucault. Like, you just know when, this might sound like a weak way of describing it, but when you say, it was very Ayub Khan, or it was very Emir of Qatar, the same, it was very Foucault. It's just, that's kind of the point, it's very them.
Yeah, it's very them. And if you, like, once again, it's also the archetype they represent, where if you think about a rebellious intellectual and how he would look and how he would dress, like, you will think of Foucault. And I honestly think that a lot of, like, Steve Jobs fashion had to be a nod of affinity to Foucault's fashion. Like, the square glasses with the bald head and the turtlenecks, this archetype of a rebellious intellectual, which Steve Jobs was in his own right as well, right? Like, in a lot of ways, I feel like, Foucault walked so Steve Jobs could run stylistically. You know what I mean? Once again, a fashion icon, not because he is extremely good looking or tall or broad or like even somebody whose work I necessarily love all the time, but because it was so true to who he was and what he wrote about, it was in congruence. It was in equilibrium with who he was as a person, the way he dressed. This edgy, sophisticated, rebellious, extremely refined look he used to put together. You know what I mean?
It's like if you read, say, The Order of Things.
Yeah.
And after that, and you didn't know who Foucault was, and you put together what this author stands for,
Yeah.
and then you had to imagine him and clothe him and style him, it would be some approximation of what Michel Foucault actually did look like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the final guy on my list is Agnelli. Agnelli is like not more can be said that has already been said by every menswear nerd article publication in the world. Everyone is obsessed with the way this guy dressed. Spreads the Tura. Yeah, that's Agnelli. Agnelli at his peak was like 5% of the Italian GDP.
That's insane.
He was the richest man in Europe, maybe the richest man in the world at the time. His industrial empire was the heartbeat of Italy, and
Agnelli was Fiat.
yeah, Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Juventus Football Club. He just owned a lot of
Mad.
stuff, man. And once again, this guy's also dressing. It was like, bro, I mastered the rules so bad. I have mastered the game so bad. I'm gonna break the rules and rewrite them as I fucking want. So this guy would be wearing the best Milanese tailors possible. And out of the entire Italian tradition, right, Milanese tailors are the most formal and the most classic and the most austere. And he would just rock those impeccable gray flannel suits with a pair of like high boots. And once again, nobody was doing that.
Unorthodox, but just so him.
But no, it's not just him. It makes sense with what he did, bro. Like I said, in cold, snowy Torino, where industrial empire is based, you need shoes that are more practical. You know, there's no point of wearing Oxfords or like, you know, monk straps in an environment like that with sleet and snow and rain and all that stuff. So the guy would be like, I'm going to wear a bunch of boots with it. You know what I mean? Like, you know that entire thing of wearing your watch over your
Dude,
shirt?
I love that, dude. It looks incredible.
Like everybody else other than Agnelli does it, it would look corny as fuck. But it works for him. Why? Because this is a man who is so rich, it's literally not worth his time to pull up his sleeve to check the time. You know, he literally cannot afford to pull up his sleeve. It makes sense he does that. You know what I mean?
That is so metaphorically just...
It's perfect. You know what I mean? The guy's rocking Canadian tuxedos, like double denim, just because he could. You know what I mean? And like he had this like nickname, the Rake of the Riviera, and Rake is like an allusion, it's alluding to his playboy status, his like, you know, extremely rakish dressing sense and stuff. Like he's a menswear icon. I can't say much more about him, but what's more important to just the aesthetic he put together was how reflective of his flamboyant, eccentric side of the way even he used to run his business. It reflected in the way he used to dress. You know what I mean? So these are all five of these characters are like extremely in touch with who they are as people, and they dress impeccably because it's reflecting. You know what I mean?
And they're all incredible ambassadors for their respective cultures, their respective nations.
Their sub niches, their cultures, their nations, and that's like.
And they are prime examples of why it's incredibly important to mog on behalf of your civilization.
Yeah, the most patriotic thing you can do is unironically mog.
Mogging is a national duty.
Mogging is national duty because, like, subconsciously, whether we like it or not, the first time we see a person, we're already making judgments about who they are and what they're like. You know what I mean? So when you have a bunch of Pakistanis who go abroad and they look really, really good, like, you're making the rest of us look good. You get what I mean? Like, the most patriotic thing you can do is to look good and dress well.
Just be put together, put some effort into how you look. And this doesn't mean that everyone's going to be Brad Pitt and then everyone's going to be
that's not the point.
6'5" and, you know, all
That's
these
not the point.
unrealistic beauty standards.
Yeah,
the entire point is
put your best foot forward.
Put your best foot
You know
forward.
what I mean? Because you're representing everything. You're representing your family. You're representing what you do. You're representing your country in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
There's the
Like, a lot of Pakistanis fall to this, like, you know, why is Pakistan amazing? Because we have the best mangoes in the world. Like, this is like, you know, it's low self-esteem. We might have the best mangoes in the world. I don't know. Maybe the Thai people say they have the best mangoes in the world. But this is not the boundary that this is not the standard we should be chasing. You know, Pakistan or the subcontinent, for all of its rich historical legacy, should be looking at itself and being like, why is our culture and the way we look not revered the way like the Japanese are for the Far East Asians or the French are for the rest of the world? You know what I mean? It is because these people supremely care about how they look, their fashion, their culture, all these things. You know what I mean? And they enjoy like a soft power because of how beautiful they tend to be physically and how beautiful their art and their culture is. You know, it's like there's a reason why people are Francophiles. You know what I mean? There's a reason why people are weeaboos obsessed with Japanese culture. There's a reason why Pakiphile is not a thing. You know what I mean? Or an Indophile is not a thing. It's because we're not like mogging, bro. We're not mogging, and we're not like promoting how good our art and our history and our culture is as much as we should be. You know what I mean?
And it's like there's the obvious external aspect of just looking good and being presentable. But dude, if you're making an effort, small example, I'm on a bit of a weight loss journey right now. I haven't gotten all the way there. I don't look how I would want to look. But just knowing that I'm on the journey and that I'm making an effort, where it fills me with a certain kind of joy and a certain kind of confidence.
Absolutely,
and for someone who, for example, has only ever been unfit in the past, right? I promise you, if you've lived that life, when you mog for the first time, or when you initiate your journey,
life, bro.
Dude, even when you're 20% of the way there on your journey to become fitter, to look better, you will feel so good that everyone will around you will feel that in just how you come across.
It's unfortunate, and look, when you get to know a person, obviously you don't judge them on their looks, but the first impressions are in many ways some of the most decisive ones. You know, I don't want to have
and they're involuntary.
Yeah, and I don't even like, obviously I don't want to choose to judge someone based on how they look. You know, it's inhuman in a lot of ways, but we all subconsciously do it. You know, we have to fight against it. Let's not give people a reason to fight against it. Why don't we make our impression as good as fucking possible?
And is there not some truth to it as well, in the sense that obviously we should never treat or mistreat anyone according to how they look?
Absolutely
of course.
No.
But
you will get better treatment when you look good, bro. It's a fact.
Dude, as someone who I was always fit, skinny, whatever you want to say, some combination of that growing up, and then I gained weight, was that not a reflection of my terrible habits for a couple of years?
Yeah.
Was I not, snacking with incredibly unhealthy seed oils, every like high carb, disgusting thing that you can imagine, right? And does that not reflect a certain unhealthy aspect of myself? Does that not reflect something that I should be actively working to change? And when I decide to finally change it and get out of that slobbishness, does that not also reflect something respectable and good about me? Of course it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so you always keep a respectable baseline with everyone. But Pakistanis, if you want to make a classier, a more respectable package out of yourself, taking care of yourself, looking good and coming across as presentable is very important.
The best thing you can do for your country and your people.
And already, bro, we have, firstly, I'm not playing into this stereotype because the rest of the world looks at Pakistanis and Indian often as the same. But we're looked at as dirty. They look at our cities and say that, you guys don't take care of yourselves.
Feet and you know what I mean?
So when we've got an image like that, it becomes all the more important, because if it doesn't matter if your Nehru jacket is the most beautiful in the world, it doesn't matter if Ayub Khan and Jinnah had impeccable style with the caracal caps. If everyone looks at you and says you're not even worth looking at because you're so unhygienic, and because you've got terrible oil-riddled diets which give you skinny fat physiques and make you the worst versions of what's historically been a proud, beautiful subset of people in the subcontinent, right? They're not going to look past
just the aesthetic of it. You know
they're never gonna get there if you're cooking with your feet.
It's a deterministic sense, and it's deterministic in the sense that you are creating your own racism. As
you're giving them ammo.
Insensitive as it is, but you're giving them ammo to do it. You're giving them ammo to be racist against you, and you cry about racism. And I think racism is wrong. I'm not saying racism is right, but like fucking avoid it. How do you avoid it? Mog.
Bro, whenever we bro, in the past we have like some foreign friends, some Goras coming in, staying with us every year, right? Every year in Shadi season especially, we're showing people around the country almost every year. Now, because I was living in Islamabad for a few years, my typical round would be those people would come to Karachi and then I would take them to Islamabad, right? Bro, they would come to this incredible city that we have, and then they'd go to Islamabad and then they'd say, I feel like we're in two different countries. Because everything here is so dirty. It's not taken care of. You go to the street, everything smells, right? And the people who generally venture out into the developing world are more sensitive to these disparities, so they're not going to judge, right? They understand why these things are the way they are. But in order to project ourselves well, we have to clean up our act, and that has to reflect in our own persons and our society at large.
Absolutely, yeah, hit the nail on the head. Absolutely, the most patriotic thing you can do, guys, is to mog.
Mog at an individual level, on a family level, on a social level, with your streets, everything should be spick, span, perfect.
On the money, bro. Looks maxing is the truth.
Look, really, you don't need to hold any politician's pinky in order to clean yourself up. Right? You don't need. You don't need
It's not the state's fault you're a slob, bro.
Yeah,
Stop blaming the state for everything. It's not the state's fault you're a fucking slob.
And you know, like, overnight, okay, say you're in an unhealthy place right now. Right? You're not overnight just gonna become Brad Pitt. But can you adopt a sense of style? Can you not wear, like,
work on yourself?
Yeah, can you, like, you know,
you wash your face?
Wash your face. Can you not wear, like, open-toed chappale when you go out and stuff like that? You know,
change your socks,
please. You know,
yeah, it's a bare minimum.
Put some perfume, put some cologne. You know, you can do all of those things.
Yeah, you can do these things, man, and I think everyone should.